The South Seas have a cuisine covering a group of far-flung island empires. The tiniest islands dot huge expanses of ocean. All of them are populated by noble peoples of a common heritage. The surf breaks on the sun-washed shores of Fiji, Java, Tahiti, Polynesia, Melanesia, and Micronesia, all separated by oceans, but each sharing similar climates, customs, and foods. We, of course, are most familiar with our own corner of this island paradise, Hawaii. Fortunately for us, the cuisine of this widespread group of islands has been distilled and concentrated in Hawaii. This is a happy thing, for many of us reach Hawaii while few people ever experience even Tahiti, let alone the lesser islands. But the same foods are common throughout most of these many islands. Pork roasted on a spit or in a pit or over hot lava rocks. Mangoes, papayas, bananas, and pineapples, rich, succulent tropical fruits. Coconuts swaying on their palms, providing drink and food, and, of course, the ever-present poi, or pounded taro root. And, of course, then there are oceans rich with exotic fish and shellfish, virtually the bounty of paradise, an Eden flung all over the Pacific Ocean. Let's explore some of the toothsome foods imported from these shores. When I think of traveling in the South Pacific, one appetizer always rushes to my mind, ramaki. It's an exquisite blend of chicken livers, water chestnuts, and bacon. They demand a little effort, but I'm sure you will find them rewarding. I drain a can of water chestnuts and wrap each chestnut with a chicken liver. And then I use half a strip of bacon to wrap it in, and with a toothpick I secure everything. This calls for a certain amount of dexterity because they are very slippery. Now, don't turn your noses up at the chicken livers. This is no time to be squeamish. They are delicious. I generally prepare 3 or 4 of these for each guest. When it's time to serve them, I bake the ramaki in 375-degree oven until the bacon is crisp. It's usually about 25 minutes. I serve these on a platter with a bowl of ketchup and a bowl of Chinese mustard, a little hotter than usual. Chinese mustard, try and find it. It's literally incandescent. It's easy to prepare. You just mix 3 tablespoons of dry mustard with 2 tablespoons of water or beer. Stir it well and put it in a shallow dish. Warn your guests. You must be kind. If you feel reckless, spike the ketchup with a tablespoonful of prepared horseradish. All these flavors blend nicely with the ramaki. I usually don't mention the chicken livers unless someone asks me specific questions. After all, a little clandestine vitamin B never hurt anyone. Now, that's one sauce for ramaki, but my favorite sauce is quick and easy to make. I bring a half a cup of pineapple juice to a boil. Then I stir in a half a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of ketchup, and 4 tablespoons full of soy sauce. When this begins to simmer, stir in a teaspoon of cornstarch that has been mixed in a tablespoonful or 2 of pineapple juice, enough to moisten it, make it runny. I let this all boil and stir it vigorously. Believe me, this makes a beautiful sweet and sour sauce in which to dip your ramaki. Another interesting appetizer is satay. These are skewers of teriyaki marinated beef, broiled and dipped in peanut sauce. I generally buy a pound or 2 of round steak and trim off all the fat. I then slip it in the freezer to firm it for about 20 minutes. After its sojourn in the freezer, the beef slices much more easily. I cut the beef into 1/4-inch slices and thread the slices onto bamboo skewers. I put them carefully into a plastic bag. After all, we don't want to puncture it. And then I pour in 1/4 of a cup of Watkins sweet and spicy salad dressing base, 1/4 of a cup of soy sauce, and 1 tablespoon of sherry and 2 tablespoons of honey. Or if you don't like the sherry, you can use bourbon whiskey. I then force out as much air as possible and seal the bag. I slip this all into the refrigerator overnight. The satés can bake in the oven with the rumaki, or they can be broiled 5 minutes under high heat or grilled over charcoal. That's the best way. I serve them with a peanut sauce. And to make peanut sauce, you chop an onion in the blender using the water method. Sauté the onion in 6 tablespoons of butter, and when the onion is golden brown, stir in 1/2 cup of chunky peanut butter. When this melts and blends together, add a dash of Tabasco, a 1/2 teaspoonful of spiced salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of granulated pepper. And there you have peanut sauce. The satés are traditionally dipped in this sauce before they are eaten. One way to serve the satés is to stick them in an upside-down half a cantaloupe. It's very pretty. These are 2 unusual and provocative appetizers, and they pave the way for an exotic South Sea Island dining experience. Pork is a commonly served meat throughout the South Seas. It is most often steamed, wrapped in tea leaves over hot lava rocks. This cooking procedure is somewhat difficult to emulate in the usual American kitchen. Few of us are willing to dig a pit 5 or 6 feet wide and 4 feet deep in the kitchen. So I have chosen a worthy substitute: pineapple glazed double pork chops. I have my butcher cut the pork chops 1½ inches thick. This makes a generous, meaty serving, and I brown the chops in a skillet and then sprinkle them with spiced salt and granulated pepper. I then put them in a shallow glass baking dish. It's much easier to clean the glaze off of it after the baking. I then make a sauce of 2 cups of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of unsweetened pineapple juice, 1/2 cup of honey, 2 teaspoons of dry mustard, and a large pinch of ground cloves. I spoon about 3 tablespoons of sauce over each chop and lay a sheet of foil loosely over the top. I bake these at 325 degrees for 1½ hours, basting them occasionally with the remainder of the sauce. About 45 minutes before the chops are due to come out, I peel 4 bananas and dip them in lemon juice. I add them to the chops and baste them with the glaze too. They make an interesting textural foil to the pork. I like to bring a touch of the Orient to this meal with shrimp fried rice. The day before this dinner, cook enough rice to give you 4 cups when it is finished. And when you are ready to use it, take it from the refrigerator and let it reach room temperature. I then chop a bunch of green onions, enough for, say 3/4 of a cup when I finish chopping. I buy a 1/2 pound of tiny bay shrimp to add to this. I heat 6 tablespoons of oil in a skillet. An electric frying pan is ideal. Fry the rice in the hot oil, pressing out all the lumps. When it's barely browned, add the onions and shrimp, plus a teaspoon of spiced salt and granulated pepper. With your spoon, make a hole in the center of the rice and pour in 2 beaten eggs. Stir them throughout the rice until the eggs begin to set. Then blend in 2 or 3 tablespoons of soy sauce and 1/2 cup of finely chopped parsley. This can be held briefly in the oven or in the electric skillet on low. I sometimes stir in a can of drained crushed pineapple for an unusual flavor burst. The shrimp fried rice, glazed pork chops, and banana make a spectacular combination. Your guests will be transported with visions of island paradises. I always think of pineapples when my thoughts turn to the South Seas, and especially to Hawaii. They're such a remarkable fruit, not only delicious to eat, but of work of art to behold. The pineapple is a traditional American symbol of hospitality. I find a juicy, ripe pineapple almost irresistible. For our dessert, let's cut 2 pineapples into quarters. Let the leaves remain because they're very attractive. Next, remove all the meat from the shells with a sharp paring knife. Discard the hard, pithy core and cut the pineapple into generous chunks. Now, when dessert time comes around, fill each shell with a scoop of pineapple sherbet and the chunks of pineapple. I like to roll my balls of sherbet in flaky coconut, and I then drizzle the coconut-covered sherbet and pineapple chunks with green creme de menthe. This is a stunning dessert, both visually and very refreshing. It's a real tropical taste and a rare treat. Well, that was a sumptuous meal, wasn't it? A real feast for our eyes as well as our stomachs. Your guests have been transported once again, and you have great reason to be proud.